Season's greetings, heathens and heretics. You see what I did there? Welcome to In the Abyss Office Christmas Party. Hey! Yeah, wild. It's me and the voice of reason at the minute, plus utterly exclusive invites that went out to about 3,000 people, but unfortunately 2 turned up. So Bean, part of the furniture as ever, and Dave from the best fucking record shop in the country, Black City Records in Bristol, was also with us with a gammy hand. And Padre of Arabia will be with us in about half an hour, I think, when he comes in from the desert. So evening and all, and Merry Christmas and all that. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a gun or something.
So look, the object tonight is try and squeeze in an entire year's worth of metal and go through our top 11, because obviously you can't do a top 10. We haven't got time to do a top 20. So let's do the sensible thing and go for a top 11. But we'll drop all that in throughout the episode. But we'll look back on, some of our favorite gigs and some of the sort of memorable things from the year, and some great riffs, and a few tits and a few bell ends, and whatever else kind of comes along the way. So I think that first and foremost, it's been a pretty fucking good year if you're a metal fan, isn't it? I think there's no doubt about that.
Oh, absolutely, drink to that.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Riffs all the way down through the top 40.
Yeah, it has been mad. I mean, I know in particular this year we've had, there seems to be a lot of access to new releases every single week this year. We all know with the K-Man feed on Twitter and all this kind of stuff. But even so, it's just, even those established bands that we already knew about, those that have released albums this year, have just upped their game, so many of them. So we can't fucking complain, really.
I think it's a really good point. I mean, I thought like last year was a good year for metal, and it's just like that momentum has carried through into this year. But I think on that point, what's really significant is the bands that are coming out with stuff, relatively recent and new bands that have just really upped their game. I'm thinking about bands like Celestial Sanctuary, Green Lung. I know we're going to talk about them through the episode, but they're all coming out with stuff that is just leaps and bounds ahead of, not necessarily ahead of what they've been doing before. The quality's always been there, but bloody hell, some of their best materials come out.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see a bit of a sort of a new wave of bands, really. And like you say, it's those ones that have been around for a few years, and now they're just putting out these completely epic records, and a lot of them have come out this year.
Yeah, it's fucking mad.
Do we think that COVID is a factor, considering people were stuck indoors and people maybe writing music or trying things out? And of course, then you've got the urge to get out there properly and do things, and you've got that sort of rebirth. And
it feels a bit like that, yeah, because it always feels like this has been the first full year where everything is completely back to normal.
Yeah,
it's plenty this year. Festivals are back in full swing. So it's almost like everyone's been sort of unleashed, and I think there's probably been quite a lot of albums that have been released this year that have all been written and recorded, or at least demoed, through COVID. So it's like, everything has just been unleashed. So be interesting to see what happens in 2024, 2025 if the standard continues.
Does it mean it's all going to drop off next year?
We're going to go to shit.
That's it. We're going to have
the dregs and the B-sides next year.
Top 5.
But yeah, look, it's been a great year. We'll start off talking about gigs and shows and things, really. And before we do anything across the year, last Saturday we held our first little shindig in Radio City Social in Chelmsford in Essex, and first and foremost, it was a fucking great night. Massive thanks to the venue for putting it on in the first place. Taking a bit of a punt, because while it is kind of a rock and metal themed sort of pub, it's not strictly that. And this was, we did it as free tickets, free show, but we had a great turnout, and the 3 bands that played, Celestial Sanctuary headlined it, and we had All Father and Beyond Grace came all the way down from Nottingham. And the main thing is to thank all 3 bands for doing it. It was they all turned up, and they all just absolutely fucking smashed the granny out of it. And all in all, it was a great night. We had loads of really good feedback from locals and people who came from far away. Big thanks to our mate Nigel, who came down from Bristol. To the 2 loons who came all the way down from Birmingham. You're a pair of legends. Absolutely love you.
Yeah. Can I
And
also just remind you, get an Oyster card.
yeah, I'll save you a fortune. But yeah, look, it was a great night. We are planning to do it again. We're going to do more shows there, as many as we possibly can. So yeah, watch this space, and look, who knows? Who knows? The venue's got plans to sort of expand as well, and you know, who knows where it could go. But we will be doing more. But for those who did come on Saturday night, thanks for coming, and we'll look forward to the next one.
We also have to sort of give kudos to Celestial Sanctuary for their meandering stream of beer. They're 6.66%.
Yeah, that's an animal. That stuff is.
It was potent. I mean, I struggle with it, but then I'm not the big drinker these days. But yeah, if you like a strong beer and whatnot, I recommend giving that a go.
Yeah, I think I made the mistake of trying that too late on. I should have had a pint early doors, but it might have been a bit more realistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a heavy going one. That have either of you two tried it?
This is no. I'm almost scared to now with that account you just gave there.
It's citrusy but very like IPA, and it's
just blood orange, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, and it is like blood orange. So it's
yeah.
I see what they've gone and done there.
In it.
Did you say it's 6.66%?
6.66%. Yeah. So
I mean, I don't know how they get it measured that accurately. Quite frankly, I'm.
Well, I don't think we need to get trading standards involved here. I think they'll. I think it'll carry off. It'll be fine.
It's the beverage of the beast.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it was a great night. Thanks to everybody who was involved. And yeah, let's do it again in a couple of months. Right, gigs of the year then. So who's going to chime in with a couple of humdingers then that you can remember from the last 12 months?
The bands that, do you know what? I went to Health. I'm lucky enough that I went to Hellfest this year, and I'm kind of at that age now where I've kind of seen most people that I would like to.
Yeah.
There was a lot of ticking off of the list, bands that I should have seen, bands that I probably should see. And I went along and I watched this band and I thought, I'm just going to do 2 songs by them just to say that I've seen them. And it's probably one of the best sets that I've seen this year and in a long time. It surprised the fuck out of me. And it was Def Leppard.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
They were absolutely outstanding.
So I'm going to assume
they'd kick your ass.
You stayed for longer than the 2 songs. Then they held you. They
were absolutely fantastic. The whole set was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then going on from Hellfest as well, Pantera. I know there's a lot of talk about the rejigged lineup or the tribute act or whatever you want to call it, but they were. I never saw Pantera back in the old days, sadly. So it was nice to see those songs actually being played. I thought they were really, really good. Charlie and Zach are perfect replacements to put in there, or subs to get in there, and yeah, it was great.
What was Anselmo's vocal performance like? I've just seen mobile phone footage of that, but nothing much.
Well, just perfect, to be honest. I mean, he's a lot deeper than he was, when he's singing something like Cemetery Gates or something. He can't obviously hit those notes, but I think he's got a great voice, and regardless of what you think about him, he's a hell of a front man.
Yeah.
He just turns it out every single time.
There you go, straight away. That's the old guard then that have impressed you this year.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the real successes of like there was a lot of naysayers, and I think they have come out there and just largely silenced the critics. All the footage I've seen has been good. I think Charlie Benante in particular, I think, has done such a fucking good job. Sitting in that drum on the drum throne and playing those parts, it sounds incredible. I've been, from the off, I was excited by the idea of it, and everything I've seen, I've thought sounded brilliant, and I'm just hoping that maybe next year or the year after. I know they're doing Download here, but I just would love to see a UK tour. I'll be there like a shot.
They were great. They were really, really good. I was. It's kind of one of those gigs that I was prepared to be disappointed at, but wasn't whatsoever. They were fantastic.
That's such a metal fan thing, and you go into it thinking, right, I want to be able to complain about this and moan about it, but it's not Pantera. It's a tribute act, and rah rah rah, and then you come away almost disappointed that you've enjoyed it.
It was bloody brilliant. It's fucking awful.
I fucking hate it. Fucking
awful. I enjoyed it so much. I just want to chip in on the Def Leppard thing, because one of my highlights was the Dogs of War at Camden Underworld, which of course wasn't the Dogs of War. It was Motley Crue.
Wait, what was it?
Stop the press. Yeah. So while Def Leppard and Motley Crue were touring around doing a stadium tour, in amongst it, a London date was announced by sort of nudge nudge wink wink, the Dogs of War, and I managed to get a ticket. I just thought it's too ridiculous not to try and to go. So a bit of context, obviously, Motley Crue, whatever you think about them, for me back in the day, 1991, they were high on my list of bands. I absolutely love them. They were kind of the first band I got into after, like, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. That was the entry point for so many of my friends, and they were the first band outside of that probably the first band that felt like they were my band. I'd kind of like branched off from the crowd and discovered this thing.
Steady on.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so I went for a ticket. The gig sold out in less than 40 seconds, because that's how much it took me to do the transaction. I went back in, sold out. But okay, obviously a lot has been written about, reported about, video footage of Vince Neil huffing and puffing his way through sets and things like that. But I have to say, they sounded incredible. And to his credit, Vince Neil, he's never going to be a great singer, but he was singing live. He wasn't miming. John 5, I think, has reinvigorated them as a band. And there was just an energy about them, probably a combination of, John 5 on guitar, so there's a bit of new life in the band, plus a tiny little show in a little club, Camden Underworld, 500 capacity. And just the sense of occasion, everyone was excited. It was ridiculous. They had all the trimmings as well on that tiny little stage. So you had dancers either side, backing singers, pole dancers, all that stuff crammed into the Underworld. It was just so bonkers. I feel really lucky to have been there. It's been a long time since I've ever really listened to Motley Crue. Take them or leave them now, but it really tapped into that part of me that just loved them back in the day, and I'd do it again.
Oh, bless. What else have we got? I'll chuck in a couple. Obituary, I think we need to drop it in. We caught them twice this year. Early on in the year, Electric Ballroom in Camden, and then in a church, Colchester Arts Centre out in Essex. And both times.
Pause on that point. Seeing Obituary in a church.
Yeah. And look, in general, it was a really good little venue, wasn't it? It was, nice sort of size. Sound was decent. It was something a bit different.
It was great.
But both times they were just absolutely on point, weren't they?
I've got that on my list as well. Obituary at Colchester. Several reasons. Just the novelty of it. But they sounded great. It's off the back of such a great album. I think we've said it before on this podcast. They just lay it down thick, heavy.
Yeah,
there's nothing not to enjoy. One of my favorite moments of this year actually is the photo I caught in the front row of Colchester Arts Centre of Tregenza mid headbang, just absolutely losing his shit to Obituary, inches from their toes. That's how close. No barrier.
Yeah, no barrier. That was the thing. That was the best thing about it, wasn't it? I was surprised at that.
Yeah, right in the thick of it. Fucking great.
Yeah, that was a fucking great night. And I'm sure you're going to back this one up. Therapy and the Fighting Cocks.
Yeah, that was a special night, I think, really. Yeah. It was. Yeah, they were only playing their new album. No classic stuff, not at all. But we've heard that stuff so many times, and being that close, that intimate, having a word with them after the gig, still on fire at that age, and still still up for it. Yeah, that was a special night actually.
Yeah, it was. It just felt like, again, you talk about bands that are reinvigorated. They feel like they've got a bit of that. The new album, which we may or may not come to in the next couple of hours, is just it's a band completely back on form, and they seem to be enjoying playing it. I think even on the tour they're doing at the moment, they're playing a good 7 or 8 songs off it, so they're clearly really proud of it. And yeah, it was a fucking great gig, and like you say, getting to chat with them for a little bit afterwards, get some photos, all of that, like a wicked night. And what was it, 10-12 quid a ticket?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, no, because it was like 25 quid with the album on vinyl.
So you pay next to nothing for it, and you're getting that. We should talk quickly about Bloodstock, I suppose. Obviously, we did that earlier in the year with a review, but that was another great year, another great weekend. We'll be going again next year.
I wrote that. I mean, I jotted down Ugly Kid Joe. I wanted to just give them another shout out for their set at Bloodstock. That was absolutely incredible. I've never seen a band make a festival feel like a small intimate venue, and that's exactly what they did. All credit to Whitfield Crane, just drew everyone into that performance, and I felt like I was in a club venue, just watching them on a small stage. But then you look around you and there's God knows how many thousands of people.
It was they were the right band for the moment, when the weather was good at the time, and it was just brought a general sort of real sort of positive vibe. But then directly after them was Sepultura, and it kind of just went up another level, didn't it?
So the 2 sets of the weekend, Sepultura, they both absolutely owned that festival, and in completely different ways.
Yeah, completely. Dave, what do you think, just quickly while I got you on, and what do you think about the whole sort of demise of Sepultura next year and it all coming to an end?
They were they were very, very important to me back in the early days. I first heard them just as they released Beneath the Remains, and then seeing like Arise come out, and by the time it got to Chaos AD, the kind of metal world was thinking, "Fuck, we've got another Metallica coming up here."
Yeah,
and they were so special to me that they're the only reason that I actually went and got tattoos done, and I just loved them so much. When I have to say, I'm one of those people. When Max left, and I was at the last gig at Brixton that he played, I just didn't really bother with them anymore.
Which is a lot of people, isn't it?
And no discredit to the Derek Green era, but I think it's just because they were so important to me that I just felt that something was completely lost. Seeing them go, it is sad. They're a metal institution. I do kind of wonder what's going to happen now, especially on the back of the Cavalera tour this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys managed to catch any of the dates.
Not this time round, but it feels like there's. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit more going into the new year, and we look forward to to 2024. But it just feels like, I mean, the tour's going to go on for a year plus, in it, Sepultura. So
there was
drag on into 2025.
Lots of talk from the stage at the Cavalera gigs of from Max. No Cavalera, no Sepultura.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wonder if something's going to happen on the back end of it, whether the rights to the name are going to change, and I don't think it's the back of the name Sepultura. Put it that way.
Yeah, I agree. There's something about this that feels a little bit like Sepultura, as we've known them for the last 20 years, are stepping aside and kind of handing the baton
backwards. Yeah.
And whether that's overthinking it or not, I don't know. But there's something odd about this, just the way this has happened. Because very, very recently, Sepultura were talking about their future intentions. They wanted to continue touring Quadra. They weren't done with that, and then after that they were going to maybe think about doing some new music. And it just seems like a very sudden decision to discontinue. And maybe just making connections that aren't there, but it's interesting that there's this Cavalera tour going on, which has been really successful. The re-recording and the re-release of the older albums. It feels like there's something happening.
Watch the space, I suppose.
I wonder whether we're going to see a full-on, a Rise era reformation. To be honest.
Okay, this has got our hand in it quickly. If I can,
let's not tempt me. I don't want this kind of. I'll be disappointed if it doesn't happen. So let's nip that in the bud.
It probably won't.
Well, whatever does happen, as long as it's done all in the best intentions, and there's no sort of bitterness about it all, and all that kind of thing, it needs to be done right, because Sepultura, as they currently are, will go out on a bit of a high, I think. So if the legacy gets ruined by controversy and what, it'll just be shit. So
yeah, I mean,
let's hope it's done right.
I'm going to take another opportunity just to go on the record of saying I adore the Sepultura's recent output. I think what they've been doing for probably the last 10 years has been, world-class heavy metal music. I love it. So it's a really interesting time. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. But that was one of the best festival sets I've seen in a long time. Sepultura, to be fair. Anybody else got anything else to throw in the mix with gigs?
I want to give a shout out to Frozen Soul at the Boston Music Room.
Yeah.
That was incredible. Absolutely flattened that venue. What was it? A couple of days before Bloodstock, actually.
Wasn't it? 2 days.
They did a little set down there. Celestial Sanctuary played too, Wallowing as well.
Yeah.
So great little curated night of music. But Frozen Soul that night absolutely fucking killed it.
Yeah, agree with that. Like Obituary, same kind of thing, and it just deliver, and that's it. There's no frills, no fucking about.
Well, you say no frills. They've got a snow machine, so
they did, didn't they?
That's all the thrills I need.
Forgot about that. Completely forgot.
Yeah, no, I should say a bit, because it's been a bit of a strange year for me. It's been a good year, but it's been a strange year because I've had to relocate to the arse edge of the country, like miles away from London or anywhere that's a decent social hub, and we nowhere near any gig venues, or so I thought, but we'll talk about that later. But I've ended up sort of saying screw it, and I've gone to probably more gigs this year than I've gone to in many, many years, just because I've just been able to and I've wanted to.
Fuck it.
Yeah, basically it's been a big fuck it moment. So yeah, obviously we did Therapy and Bloodstock. There's been a few gigs we talked about here and there. I want to shout out to the Brighton date that Creator Municipal Waste and Pest Control did, which was,
thanks for fucking my hearing as well.
Yeah, that was. But I mean, I cannot remember the last time I was actually down the front, like right at the front for a band, just enjoying myself. So, that was kind of special. And, first time I've seen Municipal Waste in about 6 or 7 years. Seeing Iron Maiden do the Somewhere in Time stuff.
They were just absolutely.
I mean, we've seen them enough times, and I know it's been a while since you've seen them, but it was again special occasion.
Yeah.
Lovely day out, just drinking in the sun in the London sunshine, catching up with friends,
meeting people from all over the fucking world as well, as you do at a Maiden concert.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what it was all about. I'd missed something like that. I hadn't done anything like that for a very long time, and I missed it, and it felt good. And like I say, the set was great, the sound was great, the band were just incredible, and again, you just have to. At the time, we had no idea what had happened to Nico McBrain.
No,
so
it's true.
That extra thing. And on top of that, I think we need to give another shout out to the Almighty a couple of weeks ago.
That was the next one I was going to bring up.
Very special occasion. I think they slayed it, and they've got more dates coming up. But it was just old school hard rock, no bullshit. Yeah. Just
when a band have chemistry, it's like it just sort of clicks back into gear, doesn't it? And it blatantly did. We never got to see them back in the day. Dave, I don't know if you're a fan, but it was a great night.
I saw supporting Metallica at Milton Keynes Bowl.
Oh, there you go.
I'm sure I saw them supporting Motorhead at Hammersmith Odeon
Probably.
That would sound about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, I'm pretty sure that was a 1916 tour, but I've just literally in the shop had the reissues of Soul Destruction and one or two others in, and I always say to people that they are a band that should have been fucking massive.
Yeah, completely. It just sort of didn't fall right for them, did it?
Well, I said last week, I think, the way the music scene changed so much
Yeah.
during their time, and they were keeping up. They were managing to keep up with it and shift their sound. But the problem here is that they were just getting leapfrogged by other new bands that the media loved more, and
it was.
They just fell behind in the end and kind of just moved on.
Yeah, but it was a great night and a great way to round off the year. I think a quick shout out to Hell Ripper, the Black Heart as well. That was just an insane show.
What a sweat box of a show!
Yeah, I don't think I've sweated that much in a long time. Not other than being on my own.
And I mean that as a complete compliment.
Yeah, completely. And Off in Hackney as well was another one earlier in the year.
I had that on my notes as well.
Which is very memorable for.
For anyone that doesn't know the Moth Club, it's like a working men's club in the middle of Hackney. It looks like something out of Phoenix Nights. It's got the kind
it really does
the glittery silver curtain that runs like down behind the bands. Really peculiar venue, really, for a gig like that. But Off were booked and absolutely fucking tore the place apart. Crazy.
What did you say? Did you say it was called the Moth Club?
The Moth Club, yeah.
Was there a lot of lights?
So no.
There's a lot of glitter.
I mean, yeah, it's not a particularly metal venue. Most of the stuff they do there is kind of like quirky sort of indie bands and stuff like that. But very occasionally, I've seen Visigoth there as well as like the other metal.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and again, that was incredible. It's a great little venue, but just odd. You feel like a bit of a fish out of water in there. It's really strange, but just works.
So that you just go in there and ask for a pint of mild, doesn't it? And there's an old man playing a piano in the corner, and
it's a sort of bar that still sells like Orange Boom. That's that sort of beer on tap.
No, that was a good one. That was a midweek sesh as well. That didn't go down well. Getting up at 5 o'clock from your sofa the next morning.
Well, do you know what? It's been the year of midweek sesh, I think.
Yeah, there's been a few. There's been a few. So, Padre's with us. Holy man, welcome.
Oh, how are you?
Nice of you to join.
Yeah,
coming from the desert.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, that's well. They're a black metal band, aren't they? I think that pretty much sums up the gigs. To be honest with you, there was obviously a few others dotted in and about, but they were certainly some of the highlights. Should we start the top 11?
I think we ought to.
Ooh, calm down. Right, calm down. Should we start at the top or should we start at the bottom?
Oh, it has to be. You have to start at the bottom.
Well, of course, you got to start.
Is it counting like top of the pops?
Why would you even think of the other way? That's heresy.
Well, look, it's a democracy. Offering it out there. You never know. You might want to do things a little bit weird.
If we're talking about countdown, that video clip I sent you guys the other day with the Channel 4 top 10 heavy metal bands. This is going back to 1998, 99. And it's when they were doing the countdown. It just made me laugh because it was like, is it Dave Lee Travis? And he's like, coming in at number 5, up above in the streets and houses, it's Rainbow. Yeah. And then number 4 is it Arm Rippingly Good at number 4, Def Leppard.
Bloody hell!
I'm trying to find the rest of those clips because I think looking forward to that. We're going to do that Priest episode. In that top 10 of all-time British heavy metal bands, where do you think Priest comes?
They probably weren't even on it, were they?
No, they were number 9.
Oh yeah.
They were ahead of UFO, behind Motorhead, behind Def Leppard, behind Sabbath, behind
Saxon were higher up as well. And yeah.
Saxon were number 8. I was like, I'm sorry, I've got nothing against Saxon, but how do you put Saxon above Priest?
Well, that's a different conversation. So look, you ain't gonna get anything as creative as David Lee Travis here. So we'll just do it easy. We'll start at number 11. So we had an overly complicated formula in place to come up with a collective top 11.
But it's worked. Come on,
it's worked. To be fair, it has, and it has given us a sort of a good broad spectrum of everyone's favourites. So, at number 11, this is one of my selections for the year, and I know it was one of Ant's as well. Orbit Culture, Descent. It's going to sneak up on a lot of people. I think this one. I've seen it in a couple of other countdowns here and there, but not a lot of people are giving it the respect I think it deserves. But I've liked this band ever since I first heard them. We caught them briefly, or caught them at Bloodstock in 2022. And there's something about them that I've always thought is really fucking cool. And they take the whole Swedish death metal thing and kind of bring it forward. I know you're going to mention the F band.
I don't have to.
In comparisons, but they sound like bands like Darkane and that to me. They've got that slight industrial tinge, but this album is just so packed full of massive fucking anthems that I couldn't not like it. I don't think. And I know, like I said, you're a big fan of it as well, aren't you?
It is. I think what astounds me about this record is the accessibility of it.
Yeah, hooky.
Not just the hooks and the riffs. It's the choruses. I haven't heard this many choruses from any kind of band, let alone a metal band, on one album. It's they're pulling them out of someone's arse, and I want to know whose arse it is.
Do you know Kazera's is?
Fuck off.
No, just not.
No,
we're not going to talk about the bear.
I'm being facetious. I'll stand down.
Facetious.
Yeah. I'm being facetious.
It's slick and it's very well produced. It is very
beautifully produced. Yeah.
Yes, it's certainly not a raw album, but it packs a punch. And this band should become massive. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think so. There's moments in it that you can kind of envisage on big stages with production and all the fucking bells and whistles that you get on like a festival stage. So
I think that's one of the things I thought when I heard the album, that I can just imagine it on a huge stage.
Yeah.
It just has that sound to it. That's how it needs to be presented.
I know, Bean, you were a little bit indifferent first couple of listens.
Listen, it didn't immediately grab me. It's one that I've sat with and I've dipped into, and I don't dislike it at all. But it just, let's not beat around the bush. It's been such a fucking good year for heavy music that it's difficult to take it all in, and it's just one of those ones that's kind of sat there on the sidelines that I have dipped into and I have listened to, and if I give it more time, maybe it will click with me as much as it has with you. But it's purely down to time. It's just one of those albums I haven't sat with for a great length of time and really absorbed. But I have listened to it, and I just think it sounds, I'm repeating myself now. It's just what I just said. It sounds huge. It sounds like it needs to be on a big stage, massive lights, explosions, pyrotechnics. And just it's a pummeling album. But as you said, massive choruses, and I know that's something that's always been appreciated on this podcast. If a song's got a hook, and it's got a chorus, it just raises it above the rest, and I think that's what's happened here with this album.
Dave, have you heard much of it? Is it up your street?
I just listened to Bean now, and I'm kind of going along the same lines. Really, it's one that I've not really dipped into too much, but yeah, I can definitely see the massive appeal of it. Listening back to it the last couple of days, the production it kind of gripes me a little bit, maybe. Just finds that maybe some of the solos are just a little bit kind of, I don't know, a bit lost or a bit muddy or whatever. And I think maybe it could have done with maybe just a little bit more justice in that side, because it sounds so big. I think it needed a bigger production to go with it, but absolutely fantastic stuff.
it's very it sounds very dense, if that makes sense. Then
Yeah.
the whole production of it is I get what you mean. That the sort of, I mean, I like the production, to be fair, but I get why it would
It does
polarize
suit
a little bit
that,
as well.
that Swedish sound, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, maybe I'm just overthinking it a bit. But yeah, it's yeah.
They are ones to watch. I kind of see them. I mean, obviously, it's very different levels, but I kind of see them in a similar vein to Parkway Drive and what's happened to them. They've got that same kind of level of accessibility, and you can see a similar sort of seduction and all that kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. They're touring the UK next year as well, so we'll get along to that and see what.
The trouble is, everyone's bloody touring next March, and I can't.
They're all touring in March, yeah. Fucking.
I could kind of like relocate back to sort of Surrey for a month with someone. But, yeah, no,
Are we keeping you up down there?
Get one out.
11:15, mate.
Yeah, it's not fucking playing. It's your weekend now. We'll go straight into number 10 while we're here, while we're sort of in a rhythm, because this is one that's an odd one amongst us all, really. So this is all of us here on tonight. Wolfman has had his 2 cents, and so has 5-string bass motherfucker Lee.
I don't even want Wolfman to get 1 cent. I mean, you stance on the Wolfman. He's not. He's pouring scorn on that court we had last year with his Ed Sheeran.
On that, we've got to bring something up of that a little bit later, but we'll come to that. Ghost at the Gallows by Spirit Adrift. So some of us absolutely love this, and others of us are a little bit sort of indifferent, but really like it, kind of thing. So Bean, I know you love it. I know you're a huge fan of it.
I was compiling my list, and this came in my top 3. I think it's an excellent metal album.
Dave, what do you think of it?
I think that their style of music, there was a lot better coming out this year from me. I think my top 3 reflects a very sort of traditional kind of metal kind of vibe. But yeah, it's great. It's a riff fest. Solos are fucking fantastic. But yeah, for me, there was better.
It's a funny one because it should be. You know, I'm a huge fan of bands like COC and stuff like that. Bands like Spirit Adrift should be up my street, and I do really like this album. But there was just something that didn't quite sort of push it over the line. It probably sits, you know, sort of 22, 23 in a top 40 countdown for me for the year. It's just on the edge of a top 20. But I don't know. I need to get it on vinyl, I think, and listen to it properly.
Like if I talk about what I like about, because we mentioned production of the Orbit Culture, production for me is the big thing on the Spirit Adrift album. It sounds like a band in a room, and you know, I mean, I've talked about this on here before as well. It's like I love that. You know, the sound of the drums sound like real drums.
Yeah,
the bands sound like they're cohesive. There's bits that remind me of Metallica, kind of like Ride the Lightning era Metallica. There's bits that remind me of Somewhere in Time era Iron Maiden, you know, but also along, you know, other bands that we've talked about this year, Tail Gunner, Witch Hazel, it kind of shares DNA with that as well. And that's you know, I really connected with this album. It was a good one for me.
There you go. Says it all. And you were a little bit indifferent as well when you're same as me.
To be honest, it simply wasn't my thing. I mean, I have to sort of acknowledge the production as well, and the sound, and certainly the musical ability, having dipped back into it recently. But it simply comes down to it's that kind of bluesy, groovy American heavy metal, which for the most part just doesn't really click with me. So I can quite happily listen to it in the background. It's just not for me, unfortunately.
Well, you know, we're sitting here talking about a top 10, and some of us are saying it's not for me. This is definitely one for Bean, for Wolfman, and for Lee. This was was their influence fully on this, very high.
The peripheral members of In the Abyss.
Not
the members of Periphery. They had nothing to do with this.
They definitely had nothing to do with this. No, definitely not. None of that bleepy nonsense. I tell you what, we'll go straight into number 9 because I know this is one that we're all fully in agreement of. We're all going to have nothing but good things to say about this. This was pretty unanimous across the board. I'm not sure if all of us had this in our top 20, but certainly most of us did. Going all the way back to January, we mentioned them once already. Obituary, Dying of Everything. Just a fucking great band on top form. What a fucking ripper of an album. I'll leave it to you lot to argue over it.
I think as earlier when we were saying that it's been a great year for albums, this was kind of this was the spark, I think, and it was like if we're getting this 2 weeks into January, we're going to have a good year. It was an absolutely fantastic album. It's absolutely brutal. There's some groove to it. They haven't, and it just sounds like they're having fun as well. It's a great, great, great record.
I completely agree. Everything you've just said. I think, again, like, I talk about my top 3. That's in there as well.
Yeah.
Very highly scored.
And the everything on this album sounded great live as well, didn't it? It just slotted in with all the rest of Obituary's back catalogue.
Yeah, I think the thing about Obituary is, they're not, they're an established act. They've been going for decades, but the music they're putting out now is just as good as anything that they put out on, like, Cause of Death, Slowly We Rock, all those classic albums. Well, it doesn't matter. You could take this album and stand it up against those, and you're not going to be disappointed. It's a fucking great album.
Yeah.
And what as well is that they don't have that sort of Cannibal Corpse effect. They don't have that status quo of death metal.
That's a really good way, like, because so Cannibal Corpse, obviously, they put out a new album this year, and I love it. I think it's great.
It's great.
But the reason, I'm not talking about it in terms of top 10 or album of the year or anything like that, is because it's just reassuringly Cannibal Corpse. Right, so it does what it does, and it sounds amazing, and I do love it, and I've listened to it a lot. But it's like you said, it's just kind of right. They've just gone in there and dropped what they usually do, and it's fucking great. But okay,
it's fantastic, and like I say, it just sounds like they're having fun. You put it on, you know who you're listening to, but they're still offering something new. Which, looking at the list, is coming from our number 2 album this year as well, I believe. And it's just, I loved it. Absolutely loved it as soon as I heard it.
I'll interject. I've never been an Obituary fan, and they're not a band I've managed to get into up till now, but there's still time. This album will help. I'll admit, it's been a grower for me. It's been a very slow grower for me. But it's been an album I've wanted to dip back into every so often through the year. It wasn't instantaneous like it was for other people. And I think certainly looking at my whole list, this sits just outside of my top 30, but it still sits there. It's still in my list.
Which for someone who's not an Obituary fan, that's a seal of approval.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, there are some catchy riffs here. We can talk about what they're doing, but on our shindig last weekend, I actually made a point of playing The Wrong Time on the DJ set afterwards, and it just sounded huge. And all we're doing is playing through a laptop, through speakers, but it's when that riff kicks in after the build up, and people just start banging their head properly, and it's just like, that's what you want. That's what you want from a metal band. Just that kind of simplicity of riff.
They've got a proper classic metal. Being you point out when you first heard The Wrong Time, it made you think of Thin Lizzy when it comes to the riff.
It's Cold Sweat in another form. It's just like it's beefed up. They've injected steroids into Cold Sweat and just made it as heavy as fuck. But I think, and what you just said there is what Obituary do really well is they just distill everything down like it's metal in its purest form. It's all riff, and then behind that you got Donald Tardy's fucking that groove, which just propels it forward. It's just fucking incredible. I really, really enjoyed that album.
I always remember in Andrew O'Neill's book about the history of heavy metal, when he first refers to Obituary, and he mentions how Donald Tardy doesn't sing; he just vomits the vocals out.
Yeah.
That's always stuck with me.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that, like I said, collectively, I think pretty much all of us had that somewhere in our list. It was just an absolute banger, and they're supporting Sepultura next year as well, so that's
Yeah,
that even more.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that'll be fucking wicked. Right, I tell you what, let's some new discoveries this year. What we got that's sort of, you know, new bands you've kind of come across, not necessarily new to last year, but bands you've discovered in the last 12 months that have sort of flicked your switch.
I'm going to go with a band called Amethyst
Oh, I'd love that EP.
from Switzerland, and that was out on Jawbreaker Records.
Back in March, I think. Was it March, April, May? Is around about that.
It's the early part of the year for sure, but just completely heard it by accident. Somebody put me onto it, and it's just fantastic. It sounds like it should have been recorded in 1980. It's but yeah, just every single song in it's absolutely brilliant. I think when they do finally get around to putting down a full length album, it's just going to be fantastic, and I hope that they go very far. But yeah, they're the new discovery for me this year, Amethyst.
I must admit, I really enjoyed the EP. I love even just the simplicity of the cover.
Yeah,
just the logo, white background. The fact it's called Rock Nights. It's just yeah.
I had a good night with that, a good time with that one. Sorry, as well. Very cool.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I didn't realize they were Swiss. For some reason, I thought they were Swedish. Maybe that's just where my brain goes.
It's probably the label. Yeah, they're on a Swedish label. But
that's probably it. But yeah,
I have to say, one of the most surprising records in my own top 20, which hasn't featured in any of your lists, although I know there's been some enjoyment with it. But I'm sorry, I absolutely love Angus McSix's album. It's wonderful. It's just, I put it down, and then for a bit I think, oh, is this just a bit too daft? And then I listen to it again and think, no, this is it. It's just unashamed, power infused cartoon heavy metal, and it's just doing it brilliantly. He's not going to come to you. He's a Scottish chap. He's not going to tour in the UK because there's simply not enough demand for it, and he can quite survive in Europe. But I really want to see him live and whip out the sword and whatnot.
yeah.
No,
so
I think,
whip out.
Well, that as well. Thing is, I've not seen him on any sort of lists at all. No albums of the year, no nothing. It did get some good reviews, and it feels like, oh, no one wants to really talk about him. He's like the mad idiot in the corner that we don't talk about because he's just not credible. It's fucking good, great metal. Stick it on.
Laser shooting dinosaur. I mean, what more could you want other than that? Really?
Metal is ridiculous.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about so my discovery of the year. I think there's two for me. And the first is just off the back of the fact that it's been such a strong year for death metal. I think death metal's really fucking, I don't know, like just in terms of quality releases that have come out this year, and to the point where it's really influenced my taste. So I'm looking. I've just found myself digging deeper and deeper and deeper into that. So in terms of an old band that I've discovered this year would be Suffocation. So I just found myself taking a deep dive into their back catalogue, and then coincidentally they come out with a new album this year, which was a coincidence in terms of I was kind of listening to them and just getting into that stuff, and then they come out with this new album which instantly made an impression on me, and I put it up there as in my top 10, top 20 certainly favorite albums of the year. But the other thing was off the back of the new Autopsy album, which also was a favorite of mine. But I want to talk about Greg Wilkinson. So the bass player of Autopsy, I caught him on a podcast just talking about what he does and what he was doing prior to his involvement with Autopsy, and just discovered all these bands that he's in. Deathgrave and Static Abyss were kind of the main ones that I just dove into, and he's done his own solo stuff under the name of Leather Glove. And I just had this deep dive into everything he'd done. And it's something, it's a journey I'm still on. So for me, Greg Wilkinson is like let's take that forward and continue listening.
Fanboy. That's what you're going to become, isn't it?
Look, we're all fanboys. Why are we here talking about it?
Padre, there must be something this year that's sort of come up on the radar that stuck out over all the others.
Yeah, I mean, you put me onto this, but like Grove Street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
For
not-
anybody who's a Suicidal Tendencies fan, I love that.
Yeah, but there's some very interesting features on the album. Like, for example, they I can't remember which song it is specifically. I think it's the actual song Caught Slipping, and it's got like they start playing parts of The Message by Grandmaster Flash.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, like it's little things like that, but it's also, I think, in one of the songs, I can't remember which one it is, they drop in the bass phone to White Lines as well. So like they obviously, you've got that kind of crossover between metal and like it's like almost like the nod and a tip of the cap to like early hip hop, which I quite like. I think it's very interesting. But yeah, the riffs definitely in that song, in that on that album, because I listened to the EP first and then the full album, and then the other one was also Drain, the band Drain. I put them at number 3. That's a great thrash album. It's chock full of riffs.
They're good. They're fucking good. And they're a band I really want to see live because their live shows look absolutely fucking mental.
Yeah, and what I like, I mean, it's again, it's the little things that we've talked about stuff like this before, but like the cover art looks fun. You know, yeah. They don't seem to take themselves too seriously, but they've got some really good songs. Like Weight of the World is a cracking song. Watch You Burn, Good Things, Evil Finds Light, good song titles, good thrash, good solos, good production. I really liked it. That and those are 2 bands completely new for me. And then I was also like, mainly thanks to Dave, Witch Hazel, I put on my list. That was the first episode we did with Dave, and he was going on about Witch Hazel. And I thought I'd go away and listen to them. It's fun stuff. It's like it's just good quality metal.
Yeah, they're up there on my list for this year as well, definitely.
And then, I mean, we all know what my reputation is. It takes me ages to listen to anything. So the fact that I even have a semblance of a list this year, is progress. So, I mean, like you mentioned Sepultura earlier. I mean, it's like everyone's probably heard that they're doing their farewell tour now.
Yeah, we spoke about it. It is a shame, but it's something we'll talk about in detail in the new year because it's a big one for all of us. But
well, we do an episode of an album countdown, and then a couple of weeks later they call it a day. I mean, what did we say something that was out of place? You know, maybe we should have been a bit more praiseworthy of Roots or something. I don't know.
Well, let's
we were. It was just
maybe they just listened and thought, do you know what, our work is done.
Yeah. But like
made as far as in the abyss. That's it. That's all we need now.
Max Cavalleris is waiting in the wings. The minute they retire, he comes back with his own version of Sepultura.
You see, there you go. This is the thought that's going through everyone's mind. We had the same conversation just before you came on. It's just that is what's going through people's minds, and
it's all a ruse. They've played an incredibly long game.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll watch this space. New discoveries for me. I'm going to drop Wallowing into it because we came across Wallowing in 2022, but only from like have you seen this fucking video that's knocking about Twitter and this mental band playing in a bookshop in Waterstones in Bristol. But they released Earth Reaper in 2023, and I've properly got into them. We saw them live with Frozen Soul, and I've grown to just absolutely fucking adore this band. And we had Maxim from the band on an episode a few months ago for a chat. A great guy, got just this bonkers sort of outlook on what they want to do with their music. And I just love that in a time where it's, we talk about a lot of bands that are doing things very traditional and, just bands like Obituary, it's just good riff based heavy metal. And then you've got stuff like Wallowing coming along, who are completely fucking mental, like nothing I've ever seen before. And even in the smallest club like Boston Music Rooms live, it was just a spectacle. And it nearly broke one of my toes with their fucking flashy green light thing that come flying off the stage. So but yeah, I can't wait to see what they do next. So they're the main one for me for 2023, I think. Right, let's do another album. Where are we now? We're up to number 8. British band, haven't been around for very long, and I think we were all kind of looking forward to what they do with the debut album after seeing them live, EP, first few singles. We caught them at a headline show not long ago. What was it, October? Yeah, everything was in October, wasn't it? At the Black Heart, and where they've kind of come since we last saw them in the Dev about 18 months ago. It's Guns for Hire, Tail Gunner. Just a fucking triumph of a young band doing old school heavy metal and loving it. No fucking about, no shame, no nothing. Just great songs, packed full of choruses. Got all the heavy metal cliches that you want, and even in the Black Heart, they had a few stage props here and there. It was like all the fucking cliches. Love it.
Costume changes. Costume changes at the Black Heart. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, just a fucking great album. They delivered it. It's look, a lot of the songs we're already familiar with because they'd already been released. But yeah, look, a triumph, I think, for a debut album. I think probably the best debut album this year.
Yeah,
I wouldn't. Yeah,
certainly up there with some of the best ones.
I reckon so. It's great to see a band that young doing something a bit more traditional. Not sonically, but they kind of remind me a little bit of what Hellripper are doing at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna, I'm hoping that they're gonna spearhead something quite big in traditional or true heavy metal, and I've got great hopes for them. I think they're a fantastic band, and all power to them. They've come out the traps blazing. So good luck.
The point you make about a spearhead, that's valid, because we don't have a British band doing this.
We don't. I mean, we have
in the public eye. It's all coming from Europe, innit? So we need a British band.
There's loads of it in Europe. There's loads of it in America.
Yeah.
One or two bands. We've already mentioned Witch Hazel today. Doing that kind of vibe. I think that these guys have the absolute appeal. Everything about it, like you've said, the look, the cliches, the stage setup, everything. I think they're a complete package.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think it's really good to see that. If you look at kind of younger bands playing heavy music at the moment, if you went down the road of kind of Kerrang and Download, it'd be easy to believe that what's coming up is that kind of trap beat, very sort of processed kind of pop metal sound. So it's really good to see a young band that are connected with the kind of tradition of heavy metal and just kicking life into it, and that bringing that to a stage and recording that, putting on an album. And to me, it just gives me faith that there's still that connection with that lineage of heavy metal, and it's still alive and it's kicking, and I love it. I think it's a great record, great band. As we said, we saw them at the Black Heart. I hadn't listened to the album too much before that Black Heart performance, but I have since. And kind of on that subject of the youth, I played it. My son was sat with me and we were listening to it, and he just looked at me. He's like, "Yeah, it's really good, really fucking loving it." So there you go. More power to Tail Gunner.
I think Tail Gunner are going to have they've got the ability and the aesthetic and the vibe that they're going to get some, once they get going. They're going to get some serious traction in Japan.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
I think that's going to do them the world of good, because it's going to let them get outside the confines of Europe, It's going to get them some experience on the road. I think that's only going to contribute to the quality of their live show. I think as well, in terms of like what their social media presence is, the fact that they've got such a talented back lineup, and especially they've got an incredibly able female guitar player in Rhea Thompson, who's, I mean, I've been watching some of her videos on Facebook. She's fantastic.
She's a phenomenal guitar player. She really is.
She's a phenomenal guitar player. Yeah, and she's. So what I'm saying is having like they've got something for everyone, and they've got the, if Dave is right and they are a spearhead, which I agree with him, it's gonna have a wider effect than just in the metal scene, because you can actually say there is the band leading the way, and look, they have this. You can't lay any qualms about them that they're only one gender, or they're a part of the patriarchy, or they're not representative. But they have a phenomenal guitar player, Rhea Thompson, who seems like a really good person. She's going to be a really good role model for a lot of people. And if they play their cards right, if they become big, she probably will be responsible for pulling a lot more women into the scene and getting them to play guitar.
Yeah, agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, on the back of what you said, I mean, what really impresses me is, I suppose, the professionalism that band actually applied to it. We can make comparisons all day long musically, but they're just like Iron Maiden. Exactly, they know what they're doing in terms of the package, the artwork, the stage set, the PR. You know, I remember sort of Axl Rose talking about Iron Maiden in a very derogatory manner, like, you know, we're not like them, we're rock and roll.
I remember that, yeah.
And you know, and yes, and that's true. Iron Maiden were not so much a product, but it's this is what we do, and we have to do it properly because you owe it to your fans and the people who paid money to it. And Tailgunner remind me of that. They take that very seriously. They want people to get the most out of their money. But on a musical point, like I say, there's not much I can add. But I think one thing that really, really surprised me is how they approach their album structure. They said their early songs were the ones they wrote first, and the last song was their latest song. And that climax, Rebirth, 8 minutes, that's one of the greatest 8-minute metal tracks I've heard in a long time. It's classic of the way it goes through the different stages, and the slow and the speeding and the solos. You know, it's a proper metal album closer. And it's okay, if that's where they're at now, or that's where they were at, you know, before they started working on album number 2 stuff, then my God, I'm scared to hear what they're going to make next.
And there's so much, when we had them on back in June, July, just before the album came out, and we went through every single song, there's a story and a tale behind every single song. There's a reason why it's got those lyrics. It's just so much, there's so much Maiden in the way they do things and the way they write songs. It's just, I don't know, it's almost like it just fits. They're coming along at the right time. And I really hope that next year that, you know, they're doing Bloodstock, which I think is going to be a big one for them. You know, they could do loads of festivals in Europe, but they're preaching to the choir there. Bloodstock is going to be a thing. I think, yeah, they are. I think they're playing on the Thursday.
Yeah.
So I got
that going. I've got that going.
Yeah, you did, to be fair.
But
I told Sammy that they're going to be early on the Thursday, which will grab an awful lot of people. There'll be nothing else on any other stages. They'll have a captive audience. So that's going to be a big moment for them.
They're also going to do that festival down in Portsmouth, aren't they? That's a sort of
doing that. Yeah, the
emo.
It's called, isn't it? Yeah,
metal, whatever. Because I know Bones is in Portsmouth now, so yeah.
They're definitely one to watch 2024.
Speaking of Maiden, we have to give ourselves a shout out because we called it. Bruce Dickinson, in an interview this week, has been criticising festivals for not pushing enough smaller bands. We predicted this a year ago, or was it episode 7 or 8?
Yeah, more than a year, way more than a year ago, maybe 2 years ago.
That is the kind of prescience that we bring to the table. We have our fingers on the pulse of this scene.
Yeah, I get over yourself. But yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. look, I tell you what, another British debut album this year. With this crack on, and probably I think definitely the shortest one in our top 11. This is the other one that I think in terms of debut albums this year, this is another one that comes close as being one of the best. Pest Controls, Don't Test the Pest. Look, outside this album, they've had a fucking great year, haven't they? They have gone from like almost nobody hearing them. They got the Obituary tour, which was a fucking big one for them. They got a couple of dates with Creator earlier in the year. They did Bloodstock, and they were one of the best sets of the weekend.
Yep.
Great album, great fun band, and they've got potential to go a long way as well.
Yeah, I think you just have to give them credit where it's due. Hardest working band this year, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Just in terms of the effort they put into, not effort, maybe that's the wrong word, but getting on some significant tours, putting out a great album. They've just put the work in. They've established themselves, and we said it, and I think we've talked about it before on this podcast. The growth they've shown from that first time we saw them supporting Creator and that set they played in Bloodstock. It was not a different band, but it was a band that had just grown in confidence.
Yeah.
And fucking loved it. I mean, it's one of the top sets of Bloodstock. They owned that stage, and more power to it, man. I think they're just going to go on to, well, they're either going to go on to great things or just explode or something. I don't know, but
we did when they came on. Then we like the first 30 seconds, we all looked at each other and were like, "Fuck, where did that come from?"
Yeah.
So just delivery was just like, Jesus fucking Christ! In the space of 6 months, they just completely changed as a band.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that performance fit the songs, because when we first saw them, it was like, these songs are great, but you see what you're going to do. But
on that point, the songs are great. Just going back to the album, it's full of energy, great production. It's got snap, it's got power. I really enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, it's good fun. And 21 minutes long.
I mean, is that even an album? Can we start the debate? What
it's
an album?
It's short. The Amethyst EP we were talking about earlier, and that's only 5 songs. So
it's 10 songs. So yeah, it's an album, mini album maybe, but yeah, no, I mean, crossover thrash at its finest. But you want more. That's the trouble. It's like, come on, give us a 30, 35 minute album with a few, just a bit more scope. You've proved you can do this really well.
They've already dropped another single, haven't they? So I think there's no reason why they can't quite keep going. Dave, you a fan of this? You must be, surely.
I saw them play with Obituary down here, and they were really, really great. The album just didn't sit with me though.
Well, I'm surprised at that.
Yeah, and I don't know. Again, maybe it's one of those things that I probably need to spend a bit more time with.
Don't need a lot of time.
But 21 minutes is
that's it. You can listen to that while you're cooking, can't you?
No, don't let Dave cook anymore. No.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking potential there for sure.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And but yeah, it's I mean, crossover thrash is kind of becoming the big thing now. Maybe got that whole thing going, but they've got massive potential for sure.
They've got a short headline tour as well in early in 2024, haven't they? So that'll be that's another step up for them.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, just as far as the album goes, I think maybe I don't know if they can just. It sounds like an old cliche, doesn't it? But if they can capture that raw energy of their live set on an album, it would be perfect.
It'd be interesting, actually, because just on that point, I was just thinking it depends, because they're a bit of a buzz band at the moment. So the next album will rise or fall on how many people interfere with that. If they do what they do and they capture that live energy and they stay true to what they've done in the past, I think they're onto a winner. But it often happens with these buzz bands. Too many people get involved. Too many other influences tell them, maybe there's this band Sleep Token that are doing really well at the moment, and all of a sudden things get drawn into a different direction. So let's hope not, And I think they seem really true to themselves. They seem really true to what they do. They talk about the scene that they came from, and they seem really connected with it. So I'm hoping for great things with the next album.
Totally agree. And like you say, I think the less interference that they have from outside sources, the better.
Yeah.
I think they've definitely set down a path, and they're completely on it. And you know what? You could probably name the labels that are knocking on their door already.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's just hope that they're strong enough to keep the vampires from the door.
Padre.
Holy man.
Yeah. I've got to just make a mention. I think this is probably the most elaborate album title of the year, and I do, go away and listen to the band King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. That's the name of the band. It's a thrash album. Listen to this album title: Petrodragonic Apocalypse, or Dawn of Eternal Night, and Annihilation of Planet Earth and the Beginning of Merciless Damnation. That's the album title.
The Gizzard Lizard are a band we've never really talked about on this podcast.
Yeah.
I think within an hour of this podcast, they'll release 3 albums. So
I was going to say they probably released an album in the time it took Padre to just read out the title of their last album.
I mean,
one of the most prolific bands I've ever been aware of. I've got no idea. Maybe who could compete? Frank Zappa, maybe. I don't know, but
yeah, that's
can you imagine them getting together with Mike Patton?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
Is that a prediction for next year?
Oh, well, probably
2024.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Right, we'll keep going with the top 11 just quickly because number 6 we're at now. 2 new bands, and a classic band now that we all go back years with. We absolutely love them. They're responsible for one of my all-time favorite albums and one of the kind of biggest turning points in my sort of musical taste when I was, a teenager. Therapy's Hard Cold Fire. We're all in agreement on this. I mean, this was just a fucking great album. Great band doing a great album. Fucking brilliant. Love them. Absolutely adore this band. They can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned.
They've never failed to deliver ever.
Nope.
To be honest, even back to the early EPs and the first album.
Damn right.
When they were doing that semi-industrial kind of vibe. And then they got caught up in the whole alternative kind of thing going on around 91 to 93 maybe. But yeah, they've always been fucking just a great band, and they're really nice chaps as well.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I think when you talk about Therapy, you have to, the word that comes to mind for me is integrity. It's a band that have just stayed true to what they do throughout their career and always delivered. It's paid off. It's like trust those 3 guys because they're always going to come up with the goods. They're always going to deliver.
And they fucking tour hard as well. They're non-stop this year. Absolutely non-stop. They're out on tour now. It's just complete. But look, when you've got an album as strong as this, you've got to get it out to the people because it's got some of my favorite Therapy songs already. I think the songs that are really, really memorable, and that's something that I must admit. Some of the recent Therapy albums, they're not as memorable perhaps as the Therapy that I love from the 90s, but this album in particular has got those real memorable moments and just those hooks that only Therapy have ever been responsible for. If you know what I mean? Just I don't know what it is they do so well, but no one else touches them.
I mean that album opener, I Shoot the Terrible Master. I mean that is classic Therapy. I mean that is the structure of it, the riff of it, the anger. That could have been written at any time between 1992 and 2001. And maybe it says, they haven't changed much, but they've been through a bit of an ebb and flow since. But it's just how well they nail it and how they could drop that in a classic set. And it just kicks off as well. One of my favourite songs of the year.
Yeah. It's just a triumph of an album, really.
And another short album as well.
It's not very long. It's only about half an hour.
30 minutes.
Yeah,
30 minutes. There's no waste on it. It's like they drop in, they kill it for half an hour, job done,
and fuck off. Yeah, exactly what you want from them. So, in a time where we got all these great new bands coming on, the old dogs are still fucking smashing it out. Surprise of the year. I know what mine is, but I'm just going to stay quiet for a minute because I could probably waffle on and he'll probably be the same. Voice of reason. Yeah, the band that has caught you off guard, surprised you, an album that you didn't expect to enjoy, like Dave and Def Leppard at Hellfest. But yeah, the biggest surprise of the year.
But well, for me, I mean, we've already talked about it. It's the retirement of Sepultura. And I know it's recent news, but it blindsided me. I didn't see it coming, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not sure where I sit with it. But you know, we've already discussed it. So, but that's my headline.
It sounds like it cuts deep. So yeah, we'll.
Yeah, well, it was just a surprise. I mean, like, I'm repeating myself, but it was because they had very recently been talking about a future. And they were quite guarded about it.
Yeah.
But the impression they gave was like, you know, we're gonna finish this cycle of touring. We're gonna see how it goes, and then, you know, then we'll be thinking about new music. And then all of a sudden, it's game over. And it just, you know, I thought they were on an upward trajectory. The music they've been putting out for the last, I mean, I said it before, 10 years has been fucking brilliant. Some incredible heavy metal music coming from Sepultura. The last album, Quadra, for me is, you know, it's untouchable. It's a fucking great album. And all of a sudden, it's like we're pulling the plug. So that's why it's a surprise to me. You know,
yeah, that's
they're
fair.
a strong band. You know, they're a strong band. They were absolutely the highlight band of Bloodstock. That set just killed everything. And here we are talking about, you know, the end of days.
Yeah, it's a shame. And yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a moment to go and gather your thoughts and sort yourself out and pull the emotion back in. And yeah, we'll come back to you. Dave, anything jumped out on you this year that you didn't expect?
Yeah, surprise of the year, I think I kind of alluded to it really already, was Pantera.
Yeah.
To be honest. Like I say, you know, I didn't particularly want to like it, but just couldn't help it. Couldn't help it. And for, you know, for all of the metal injection and metal sucks fucking commentators, and, you know, you can say whatever you want, they were fucking brilliant. They surprised the shit out of me. They were fantastic.
Well, I guess it's nice to hear something positive about it. That's the main thing. So, you know, voice of reason, surprise of the year.
Yeah, this is gonna be a group effort between us, isn't it?
Yeah. After 3, 1, 2, 3.
Creeper. I'm still in shock. I generally am. What a fucking amazing album, Sanguivore. It really is. You know, this is a band who, you know, I need to give earlier stuff another go because I might have a different perspective on it now. But
I wouldn't bother, to be fair. I've tried and it's still done the click.
Well, I might. You know me. I was a bit more open to certain.
Yeah,
stuff
that's probably
so I might do. But yeah, at the time, it just felt like sort of, you know, gothic emo, a bit past it. Not really my thing. Felt a bit contrived, I suppose. Really, not dirty enough for the image they were doing. But like I say, I decided to give a couple of tracks a go because it had come out that day. We weren't recording that Friday evening, so I thought let's go through the current releases, and I fell in love with it straight away. You know, it's a Jim Steinman classic, even though he's long gone. You've got Meatloaf there, you've got Sisters of Mercy there, you've got the Cult, you've got some Ghost, you've got all the theatrics, but you know the songs are amazing. The songs are absolutely amazing. The tunes, the melodies, the everything about it. And again, it's very well constructed. They know what they're trying to do, and they said this is what we wanted to do. We kind of got a bit pigeonholed with that kind of stuff, but you know, we were a younger band and finding our way. You know, and I to be honest, I'm probably more shocked at your reaction because I recommended it to you because I thought I think you might like this. I think, you know, you might get a kick out of this album, so give it a go. I did, and yeah. I mean,
yeah, look, it doesn't feature in our top 11. Spoiler alert, because it was only
because no one else likes it.
that really rated it. So it didn't really fit the formula. But yeah, I gave it a go on a drive to work. I've said this already on this podcast, but fuck me, I just absolutely blown away with the songs. And you can tell I love it because I've badgered other people to go and listen to it. Like, no, you've got to listen to it. And Dave's one of them. I've sent him a text. I was like, no, seriously, you've got to give it a go. Just try it. Honestly, you'll love it. It's fucking great. But have you yet?
I've listened to it once. And I probably wasn't paying enough attention. But surprise, I've actually always kind of liked Creeper to a degree anyway.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah,
well, this isn't really anything like any previous stuff. So
I think when I get down and dirty with it, I think I'll enjoy it a lot.
Sure. You know what? It's a Christmas album. It's got that you can put it on at Christmas and enjoy it. I think vibe. It's
just the choruses are fucking huge, just like anthems I haven't heard in donkey's years.
Yeah,
and the only reason it's not, and again, this is a bit of a spoiler. The only reason it's not my album of the year is because my album of the year is just something that was just so phenomenal that nothing was going to touch it, and I just fell in love with it straight away. But it came very, very close between the two. It's just, and the album cover's great as well. The vinyl's lovely, the nice purple splattered vinyl with a sort of embossed cover. It's a really nice package. Everything about it, even the visual aesthetics of the videos, everything just looks great, doesn't it? It's straight out of the 80s. It is quite cliched, granted, but you can't argue with those.
What's the name of the album?
Sanguivore.
Right, okay. I will go away and listen as well.
They've always done great branding, that band. Like,
yeah. I'll give them that. Yeah.
They've had that kind of misfits kind of brand about them. And
yeah.
It's just always worked.
It's almost like this album is all of that being let off the leash. Like they've gone, fuck it, let's just go balls deep with it. And
it's I mean, I said earlier that I've relocated and I moved to Margate, which, if you don't know where Margate is, it's on the tip of Kent, on the east coast, southeast coast of Britain. It's on the other side of Canterbury, and it's a bit of a seaside town. People go down there from London, for the day and the weekend. But it's quite run down in places. There's a bit of a far right element around here, but there's also there's an alternative crowd of people. You got your artists and whatnot, so it is a bit of a mix. But nothing happens really. Although in the last 20 years, it's had a bit of funding, it's had a bit of effort to make the old town a bit nicer and keep the day tourists going. But yeah, I moved down here thinking, right, I'm nowhere near any gig venues. But I came down here just before the summer, and I didn't realise they were doing all these summer gigs in the outdoors in what was the old fairground. And it still is a fairground. And they, Queens of the Stone Age played one night, but there was all sorts of dance and indie stuff happening, and it was good to see. But there's a small venue inside there that they've been using more and more. And I said late last year is that we're seeing more and more bands added, indie bands, but also rock bands. Skin Dread, they sold out a show down at the venue. British Lion, whatever, but fair play. But yeah, the last couple of weeks we had some big ones announced, and Creeper are doing a sort of short-ish intimate tour outside of the big cities, and the opening night on a Friday night is Margate Dreamland. And I was just like, come on, lads, Dolly Boys outing. Come on, I said, get your Friday off. Let's make a weekend of it. And it will be. It will just be all the goths of Kent descending into Margate for the evening.
Is that a rival podcast?
It is. And a week later, Ugly Kid Joe are playing. So I mean, I've made my decision about what I'm going to do living wise anyway. I'm going to stay local-ish, but it's just like, this is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. All of a sudden, I've kind of lucked out. But Creeper.
Isn't the Goths of Kent like the sequel to the Witches of Eastwick?
If it isn't, it bloody well should be.
Yeah.
Get the funding. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, that's it.
Once again, please give the album a chance. Creeper, Sanguivore. It is.
Do you know what?
Fantastic.
It's one of those albums that again it falls into that category of albums I just haven't had the time to spend with because there's been so much to listen to. But I've, the enthusiasm for it is just
I've got to say,
it's just sat there throughout. Since it's been released, it's the album that everyone's talking about, and I just haven't had the time.
my surprise of the year is the fact that you guys got Gavin Evans to a metal concert. Right.
Listen, I wanted to flag that up when we talked about gigs earlier in the podcast, and I wanted to shout out Gav, the hardcore legend, for putting himself forward for a social experiment and coming to see Municipal Waste, and what a fucking night we had. What a good time.
Well, while you're on that, you kind of jumped the gun a little bit because I was going to go, oh, what was your moment of the year? Rah, 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 rah. But you know what? That's on my list as my moment of the year because that night because the gig was good, it wasn't outstanding, sound wasn't great, all of that. But when I turned around, when I'm a couple of people from the Barrier and I turn around and I see Gav, never been to a metal show before, never really been a metal fan, was in that fucking pit and he was gone. There was no need for encouragement. He was off. That's my moment of the year.
This is why they call him the hardcore legend.
Yeah,
because of that sort of behaviour.
Yeah, the next thing is, he's got to go to a hardcore show. Secondly,
that'd be a different experience.
Yeah. But also, from my perspective, is I've known him a lot longer than any of you.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like when you've been trying to open a jar of pickles and then someone comes along and just gets the lid off with no effort. I've been on that fucking jar of pickles for 25 years, and then you cunts come along. Yeah, he's at a metal gig. I remember taking him to a metal bar in Amsterdam and sat there, and we put on like Under Siege in Barcelona by Sepultura and like Rude Awakening and Megadeth. I put Cliff them all on. This is like Hard Rock Cafe in Metal City in Amsterdam, just off the Liedersplein. And they had all the videos on the bar, and it was like, so I've been working on that for years. So, you guys just came in at the end, got the lid off. I wasn't there. Fair play to him.
It was a great night. He walked away with a Municipal Waste shirt. And just fucking
Like you got to fucking hold your hands up and fucking give credit to the guy because he threw himself into that experience. And like recently, we were chatting about because it's that time of year and everyone's getting there. If you indulge in this sort of thing, Spotify Wrapped, and Gav shared his, and it's like metal bands all down the line.
Yeah, the tide has turned, mate. The tide has really turned. So yeah,
what's this space predictions for 2024? Gav's going to be a fucking you wait.
Gav's going to be the one in the middle of the circle pit with his arms in the air, swinging round and round, and kicking it off.
Yeah. He's going to be losing. He's going to be losing shoes.
Get him to Bloodstock, and he's got a teenage son, so get him to bring his kid to Bloodstock as well. Like that's your next job.
That might be one for 2025. But
a bit further down the line.
But yeah, Gav, cheers for that, mate. It made that just such a fucking great night. So yeah. Since we've done that, let's top five. Top five. Excitement. Look, straight to number 5. This is an album I know we've all loved this year, as it fucking should, because it's number 5. Enslaved, Heimdall. What a fucking masterpiece. What a band.
Just a classy album.
Yep. Even the cover, the gatefold, the vinyl, the double vinyl, everything about it, just a lovely piece of work.
Like everything about that record is just a band that knows what the fuck they're doing. Yep. It's a band with experience. It's a band with history. And, they're putting out albums that are just a combination of all of that. Fucking loved it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know this is a big one for the Voice of Reason as well.
Yeah, and full transparency, I've never been an Enslaved fan before, so I'm still working on them. But this is my album of the year. It doesn't sound like anything else. How they approach their songwriting, the production, their riffs, the structure of it. It just sounds completely unique. And when the songs are good, the tracks are good. You know, for me, that's kind of what's always going to elevate it above everything else. I probably, you know what, I've listened to other albums more, but when I've listened to this,
I would say the same thing. Actually,
it's you know, it's an experience as well as a, you know, piece of music. It's something to just sit there and absorb, and you hear things you didn't hear previously. And as I said, I think I mentioned previously, it sounds like, you know, a Viking journey, doesn't it, from one part of the world to another.
You get whisked away into that when you're listening to it. The cliche does that sound, that's how it feels.
Yeah, but you say they're experienced, they know what they're doing at this point. But yeah, it's an absolutely magnificent piece of work. Absolutely love it. And for me, yeah, like I say,
on that point as well, it's like if you look at a lot of the other bands on this list, they're very kind of in your face albums. You know, there's that kind of like, it's all up front. There's a punk energy to it. There's an intense energy to it.
Yeah.
This one, there's depth to it. You know, it is a journey, it is an experience, it is layered. You know, it's an album that's been constructed and absolutely deserves its place in the top 5.
Yeah, completely. Dave, opinion on that?
I've never been an Enslaved fan ever.
Fucking hell.
It's interesting to hear your thoughts on it, though, I respect them all, and I will revisit it tomorrow. But
they are one of those bands, though. You're either a fan or you're not. They're not particularly. You know, they're not an obvious accessible band.
Can I really offend now? Is it that? I've got this term that I use called snooze metal.
Oh my god! Oh my fucking god!
That's my favorite genre. I look that up on like playlists all the time.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at our wonderful spreadsheet, you'll find that it didn't factor at all for me.
No, it didn't.
But yeah, I don't know. I've just never. I don't know. I've just never got on with that band, and that is just a personal taste thing. I'm not saying it's a bad album, of course, but yeah, it's they've just never sat with me for one reason or t'other.
They are quite a Marmite band.
What's interesting is we because we reviewed this album, we got together to sit and talk about this album when it came out. So I think that put us in a position where we gave it some real focused listening, and maybe that made the difference because we sat down with it and gave it some time. And it is one of those albums where, you know, it's not necessarily a head nodder or something you're going to hear on a PA and it's going to move you in that way or make you dance or anything like that. But when you sit down and you give it some focused listening, it just has, you know, it's like the treasures are kind of, you know, they reveal themselves as you listen to it and you go on that journey.
How fucking pretentious do we sound talking about this?
Now, isn't it? I mean, I get it. I mean, with like the Obituary album, which we've already talked about, you know, you can put it on and you can hear it and you can start nodding, and I do appreciate that sometimes you have to not just hear an album, but you have to properly listen to it.
One of those,
and maybe I just haven't had the mental space to sit down and properly consume it. If you know what I mean.
But it's interesting you say this, because I think when I wasn't too familiar with the band and I heard the singles earlier this year or late last year, they connected very quickly. And when I made a point, again, starting my Enslaved journey, you know, quite recently, you know, just getting round to it, and the first time I've really given a go was Below the Lights, and it was very, very accessible to me. So I think this could be like a favourite band very quickly for me. But it's just interesting to hear what you say about that connection. But for me, there is that connection there. This could be, yeah, generally one of my favourite bands within a year.
They are one of those bands that they either hit or they don't.
Yeah,
you know, so there's very little middle ground. So, but you know, the majority of us loved it anyway. So, We won't listen to Dave's opinion.
And a great arc as well as a band. Like you can go back to the early career and just hear some really fucking raw black metal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
really
that's
raw.
right. Being black metal. They are not a prog band. They are a black metal band.
I'm raising a
Black
glass to
metal
that.
band. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll raise my old crafty hen to that.
I mean, I don't know what it is, but I want to listen to this.
Part of my
I one.
I wonder if that's part of my problem, to be honest, is that, you know, I still think of Enslaved as this, you know, quite gritty kind of black metal outfit rather than what they've sort of produced themselves into, like a band like Ulva. You know, I've never really sort of digged the later Ulva stuff, although I know it is absolutely technically proficiently, you know, out of this world.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah.
I mean, there's still plenty of that black metal
Oh yeah, there
thing
is
going on,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think we're all going to see them live, are we not? In the
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
I'm
looking forward to
hoping
that,
to
Svalbard.
be, you know, I'm hoping that's going to hit us right in the face that night.
Yeah, I've only seen them once, and that was at Bloodstock about 15 years ago. So this will be never seen them indoors. It's quite a cool venue, I think, isn't it? So it'll be something a bit. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
My lodger is supporting them on that tour, and he's
really?
very, very happy.
Who's your lodger playing?
He plays in Svalbard.
Oh, he's in Svalbard.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
Right, okay, fair play.
Yeah, he's playing on the European stretch, and yeah, Enslaved are his favourite band.
Oh well, there you go. That works. Yeah, I've never seen Svalbard.
Well, you two need to sit down together and just have a night in.
we do often. We do.
Oh, it's
Sort
just
the problem out.
It's like we don't talk about Enslaved. That's like
Like the Scottish play.
He tries to tell me about
Yeah.
Enslaved. I tried to tell him about Hellripper, you know, and it's kind of like, yeah.
Oh, listen, it's a sitcom I would tune into.
Well, funny you talk about Hellripper. Fuck it, let's go number 4. Hellripper, Warlock's Grim, and Withered Hags.
God damn.
God fucking damn. Look, I like Hellripper anyway. The stuff that's come before has been great fun, great bonkers, fucking speed metal, you know. But on Warlock's Grim, just taken a whole fucking massive step forward in terms of songwriting. Some of the bits where it's sort of slowed it down and you got a bit more of an epic kind of thing going on here. It's very, very Scottish in its theme. What a fucking record. What a record. It's just so fucking good from start to finish. And I go back to earlier in the year when it was released, late February, early March, whenever it was.
Yeah.
And our voice of reason, it wasn't all that taken by it, but I know for a fact over the course of the year that opinion's changed.
Well, I liked it at the start, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a quick win for me. And I thought, you know, I think I might like this if I keep listening to it. And guess what? I do. But I think, yeah, there was one point where I think I gave it a bit of a 2-month gap. I think with listening to other things, and when I came back to it, it was like, oh yeah, this is fucking brilliant. This really is. It hit me. It really hit me. And yeah, it's. I mean, you know, the stuff the 2 singles that they played already, I'd really liked, and certainly I'd seen the depth and the progression since the earlier stuff. But yeah, coming back to it, second half of the year, yeah, what an album! Absolutely, yeah, it's furious, but lots of melody there. You know, very, very refreshing and quite unique as well with the Scottish mythology as well. So. I
think this is the first album on our list that I've seen on other lists. You know, people are starting to put out their own kind of top 10s, top 20s, whatever it is for the year. And Hellripper is one that I just see consistently across the board. I just feel like this is an album that's really, really connected with people. Yeah,
completely. Dave, you're a fan of it, aren't you?
Yeah, I love Hellripper. I was just checking my top 20, and Hellripper actually didn't make it, and I suppose that's testament to how good the year has been. But yeah, it is a fucking incredible album.
Yeah,
I think everything that he's doing is just absolutely outstanding. I love black thrash, black speed kind of stuff anyway, you know, and it's just good fun music. brilliant. He's going to go far, and if he doesn't, it's a fucking travesty.
Oh, I think he will. I mean, he's got that sort of that mindset where you can clearly he's driven. Do you know what I mean? Wherever that he'll get to where he wants to get to, wherever that may be, he will achieve it. And you know, from a business and professionalism point of view, you know, we had him on the podcast right at the start of the year, just before the album came out, and he sat in this room, and it looks like a warehouse. It's just full of merch. And you can guarantee within about 3 weeks, all of that was in that room was gone, and there'll be another load coming in. You know,
absolutely driven. You know, driven as a brand, a business, and obviously as a musician. And you know, I think everything that he's doing, everything that he's trying to portray, everything that he's trying to champion, is fucking spot on.
Yeah.
And good, yeah.
And a fucking top bloke to add to that as well. So,
I couldn't have said it better. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All hail the goat.
Yeah.
All hail the goats.
All hail the goat. And it was the privilege of being my daughter's first metal gig this year as well, which she absolutely loved, and she met him, and he was really cool, and all of that. So although all that just all adds to the fucking
of course it
specialness of it all, kind of thing. So right. Before we carry on, let's touch on a few EPs, I think, because there's been some belters out this year. Just quickly go through a few. One I want to get in there because it's a bit kind of, is it an EP? Is it not? We got to talk about Allfather. We love Allfather. We absolutely fucking adore that band. They played our show on Saturday. They were fucking brilliant. Riffs just for days and days and days. But this EP stroke album, whatever you want to call it, just an absolute fucking banger.
100%. I would agree with you. I think we talked about earlier in the year, and for me, it's a great EP, and it just gets better through the duration. So the second half of the EP for me absolutely fucking crushes.
Yeah, heavy as fuck. There's some great melody in there, great riffs, hooks. And you know what? Live, they were fucking brilliant. They was absolutely fucking. The guitar tone that came out of that man was just unreal.
Oh yeah, I was shocked at how that venue accommodated them, because, like I say, not a gig venue, but even with earplugs, it was just a brilliant guitar sound.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Such a cool band and great guys as well. So
listen,
I
love that. To know Allfather are a band that take their guitar tone very seriously,
as they should. I've got quite a long list of EPs, to be fair. I'll also throw in Chupacabra. The 45 of that was just that didn't expect that to, no offense, I didn't expect it to be as fucking good as it was, because it was absolutely fucking brilliant. And I can't wait to hear what Nigel and Heather do next, because that was a really high standard to kick things off with. Just a fucking monster. Like I said, I've got loads, but I'll leave it to you guys to throw yours in as well.
Well, I mean, before I talk about specifics, I think it's worth mentioning, and we've discussed it before, but like the EP is perhaps becoming the format of the future.
Yeah,
you know, we've talked about, like, is the album format dead? I don't think it is necessarily, but I think a lot of bands are choosing to release truncated like EP style releases. For me, I've got Mutagenic Host is the big one for me.
Another banger.
Like the Genotoxic demo, just for the guitar tone alone, I would fucking champion that. It's up there with I think about like Celtic Frost and their guitar tone, that fucking ripping, horrible, like deep, like, and Mutagenic Host have got that going on. Penny Coffin. Can we talk about Penny Coffin?
Fucking another great fucking EP. Yep.
I didn't see that coming. I've listened, like, I've enjoyed Penny Coffin for a long time, listened to their stuff, but when they drop what was it called? Conscripted Morality.
Conscripted Morality, yep.
That's a fucking world-class release right there. Get some of that in you.
That's high praise.
It is. I mean, it just is.
Doomsday, and I know this is one that tickled Padres. but I think he may have fallen asleep. No, he's not. He's still with us. To be fair to him, he's 3 hours ahead of us. It's 9:30 in the UK. So yeah, Doomsday Padre. This EP did it for you, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It was good stuff. A lot of good riffs. Had it on I was listening to it for quite a while on repeat. Definitely worth checking out.
Again, crossover thrash in it, which has been very popular this year. But it was
and it's, you know, some beat downs in it, and yeah. Again, it's like, you know, I agree about the EPs being the format of the future, but you know, some of these bands, the EPs are so good that you just want a little bit more, you know. Like, when's the next EP going to come out?
The Acid R EP, Echoes of the Ancients, that came out back in April, was another one that gagging for a full-length album.
Yep.
But they've kind of gone on a bit of a hiatus. So,
what's that? Is it their song? Is it the Eldritch God? The end 30 seconds of that song is phenomenal, and you're like, okay, I can't wait for the album. And then they've gone on hiatus. I was really looking forward to seeing what they would come up with.
Yeah, me too. It's a shame because
there
was a vinyl release coming out of it, and something went tits up along the lines with that. So, you know, it's all kind of got wrong, I think. But any others to throw in the mix?
I got Disengagement.
Yeah. Another
Disengagement. Formless in a Dying World.
Yeah, I've got that.
Dry Cough. Yeah. As in released on Dry Cough, and it like that really captured me. Disengagement, Dying in a Formless World. Like, if you haven't heard it, look it up, play it, have a great time for an EP length of time. You know, again, it's like 20 minutes long, if that, not even that. I don't know, but it fucking crushes.
Fair play. I agree with that. It's on my list as well.
Amethyst.
Yep. Also on my list.
all about Amethyst. And if you don't like it, you're a fucking poser.
I like it.
I haven't listened to it, so you know that's my excuse, but I will.
Do you know what? It might be cheating a little bit because it's just a rehash, but the re-recording of Bastille Devastation as well.
Yeah, fair shout.
Yeah. Do you know what? I like, that's a no-brainer, of course.
Yeah, that deserves that. So
yeah. Also, I want to give a shout out to Begotten as well. To the Dreary End, which tells you everything you need to know about that EP.
Sounds beautiful.
But exactly, and that's exactly the point. You know, only a metal podcast could appreciate that. It's fucking miserable and fucking brilliant. So Begotten, look that one up. And the only other one I had on my list was, and this is, you know, a more established band, was Fu Manchu. They put out A Million Miles Away, so which was the third EP in a kind of 30-year celebration that they did, and it's fucking great. You know, it features Neil Fallon from Clutch makes an appearance on it, which is good if you like Clutch. I think there's mixed opinions on this podcast, but I fucking love them.
Not about his voice, there isn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm a massive Fu Manchu fan, so I'm happy to go on the record and say that. I'm a big Clutch fan. I'm happy to go on the record and say that. So if the two things come together, that's a great EP in my opinion.
Bosh, just like that.
Well, I just want to mention one. I mean, before being like, you know,
apologies. I got excited. It's new music.
The thing is, for me, I've listened to a lot of albums this year, way more than I've ever done before, because that was kind of like the goal, if I'm honest with you. And I've done the thing where I've just completely overlooked EPs again, unless something really stood out for me. So I think the one I want to mention that I've kind of enjoyed frequently is Impending Triumph.
The Manowar album that wasn't quite Manowar, but should have been Manowar.
Yeah, the one with the sort of Frank Frazetta-ish kind of EP cover. But yeah, it's epic heavy metal, very, very Manowar-ish. But you know, there's a bit of a metalcore vibe, but there's also a bit of a sort of punk vibe there. I mean, you got one track that sounds like, I don't know, Manowar covering AFI.
Say that again.
I would love to see that.
It does. It sounds like Manowar covering AFI. And no, I've just really enjoyed that EP. It's like 5 tracks, although 4 tracks plus an intro. It's just good fun, really.
I'm sure I saw that in Dave's shop when we were in there.
It was, yeah.
That's on Jawbreaker Records from Sweden again, and yeah, completely agree. Absolutely fantastic.
There you go. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that one. To be fair, that wasn't on my list, and I do remember very much enjoying it. Right, before we go and do the top 3, we did this last year, and I think we're going to end up doing it every year. Bell End stroke tit of the year. There's probably a default for this every year, to be fair, but just in case anyone wants to throw anything else into the mix that isn't Dave Mustaine, the floor is yours.
But you didn't put this on the advanced thing, I don't think. I would have thought about it. I've not thought about it. I'm trying to be positive.
Well, look, you've got to have someone being a tit, haven't you? And for me, it's just Dave Mustaine and the whole. Oh, look, Megadeth are going digital. Look at us, and yeah, you're
this is an interesting point, because I thought I thought Dave and Megadeth had redeemed themselves with their Bloodstock appearance, which was great.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah. But then late on, we get this announcement from Megadeth, the Megadeth camp, that they're going digital. It's like, well, what does this mean? And as far as I understand it, it's just NFTs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, which am I wrong in thinking this is just a kind of a dying thing that was popular once about 18 months ago? It's been proven to be a waste of time, and no one's making any money, and it's a little bit shit. And Dave suddenly popped up and gone, we're going to champion this.
It's a revolution.
Like, can anyone explain it any differently? I mean,
No, you've nailed it perfectly. He's about 18 months, 2 years too late to a terrible thing.
Yeah, so there you go, by default. Dave, got anything to add?
So is that 2 years in a row?
It'll end up just being the Dave Mustaine Award for Tit of the Year.
No, I've got a Bell End of the Year, but I can't tell you who it is. But
no, you can.
No, I can't. I really can't. But by default, it's it's got to be Big Dave.
It's always going to be Dave Mustaine. It'll be Dave Mustaine until John Schaefer resurfaces, and then we might move on for there. But
is he not? Are we still looking for him?
Yeah, I think we may as well be. No one knows where the fuck he is.
I think he did turn up and did some sort of deal, because he's dropped off a news cycle, I think. But I think they're about to sentence him or something. But I don't know. I've lost track.
Until he enters the NFT market, I think he's safe.
But let's do top 3. So we may as well. In the nitty gritty now. Could be anything at this point. Fucking where we've been. Right, number 3. This is one for Dave, because I wouldn't have heard this band if Dave hadn't been championing them all across social media. We had them playing in the shop as well. And it's just a fucking wonderful album. Witch Hazel, Sacrament.
I can't speak highly enough of this band. When I first heard them, it just brought me back to 80s metal. It brought me back to Iron Maiden, brought me back to proto metal, Wishbone Ash, and but just the riffs, the melodies, the chorus, literally everything. I cannot speak highly enough of this band. This band were my number 2 on my list. They played in the shop, and then later that night they played down at the Griff, just down the road. I absolutely fucking love them. I cannot say enough about them. They should be massive, absolutely massive. They are fucking fantastic.
Get off the fence, Dave.
Well, listen, just as an extension to that, I saw them live this week, just at the weekend, and they fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
We saw them at Bloodstock, great set. Really enjoyed it, and then saw them live supporting Green Lung, which again was an immense set. I mean, Green Lung fucking nailed it as well, but Witch Hazel supported, amazing.
Perfect match. Green Lung and Witch Hazel.
Heaven and hell.
Yeah, that poster that was done with the devil, and that's just brilliant. Just so fucking cool. Aesthetically brilliant.
And I want just a very quick throwback, because we opened the episode talking about gigs of the year, and I didn't mention it, and I kind of hoped it would come up again. I kind of was looking for a way to like get back into it, but Green Lung at the Electric Ballroom this weekend absolutely fucking owned it, and I can only assume there's big things on the horizon for that band. Like, they put in a performance that was incredible.
Green Lung are going to be the UK's answer to Ghost.
Absolutely.
I
completely subscribe to that.
Green Lung are going to be a download headliner.
Whoa, there you go.
Listen,
you heard it here first.
I would not be surprised. This is a band that are taking what they do really seriously. The music is great. The presentation is great. The performance is great. I've seen them several times over the last. The first time I saw them, I was actually playing. Like, we were playing a gig together in a shitty little bar downstairs in Hackney, and they were doing what they do, and they were good then. And then I've seen them just go from strength to strength to strength. And that's not just the albums. The albums have gone from strength to strength, and the performances have gone from strength to strength. And it's all culminated in this band that are going to fucking conquer the world.
There you go. There you go. You heard it here first. Green Lung is download headliners. All right.
Mm.
The
reason I mentioned them was because fucking Witch Hazel supported them. They were fucking great too.
Go on it in there somewhere. Get it in. Go on.
Yeah.
What's the reason? Witch Hazel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I honestly, I hadn't seen them pop up on Dave's feed at the time. I think when it came out, it was on K-Man's list. Never heard of them. Saw the description. Thought, probably should give them a go. Really, loved it straight away. Like, the harmonized guitars just plugged right into that particular spot in the cortex, which just yoinks me right in. And I listened to that album on the morning walk before work, and I pretty much WhatsApped you straight away and went, "Oh my god, this is amazing!"
Yeah.
And did anyone know this? And yeah, got the positive feedback. Not a bad song on the album. So organic, flows beautifully. Technical and musical, decent enough. Their aesthetic is there.
Very cool. Yeah, they've got a unique look. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've said in the past, the 70s kind of stuff doesn't quite grab me as much as the 80s kind of stuff. I mean, we're talking about Green Lung there. I do like the album, but it's much further down my list, actually. I think there's songs there that don't quite do it for me, but others that really do. But like I say, it's Witch Hazel. It just does it for me. It's my number 4 this year. It's an absolutely fantastic album.
Yeah, it is. It's great, and another British band, which, look, I dropped in a little thing for us, just any other business wise, and that's one thing I want to point out is what a great year it's been for British heavy music.
Yeah,
we've all got loads of British bands in through our lists, and there's plenty that aren't on our list that other people have mentioned as well. But it's been a fucking great year for British heavy music.
Amen.
Yeah, just phenomenal. And I'll be surprised if 2024 is any different. So, right, number 2. Now, number two. If ever there's a fucking Marmite album, it's this one.
Number 2 sounds like an insult from the off, doesn't it?
Well, to a lot of people, this album was an insult, but it isn't to us. We love it,
and everyone on our list has it in their top 20.
It's the one that everybody covers. And look, it's Metallica, 72 seasons. Like I said, it's a Marmite album. So many people have gone, you've had everything about Metallica this year. Oh, fuck that. It's not Metallica anymore. It's too long. It's fucking shit. It's boring. Whatever, all the negativity, whatever you want to say. But we all love it. I mean, me and Bean went to cinema in Hackney to watch the whole sort of preview thing, go through the album, listen to it. And, we went about a bit of a debrief over a couple of beers afterwards. And straight away, wasn't it? We
just a couple of beers.
Just one or two on a Wednesday.
Like I said, man, it's been the year of the midweek piss up.
Yeah, yeah.
Too
It
much
was
metal.
definitely that.
Too much midweek metal.
Too much midweek. No, you could never have too much midweek now. It's
No,
fucking
it's
Thursday
an
now.
oxymoron. It's an oxymoron. Don't worry about it. Ignore me.
But no, it's for me, it's a band back on form, enjoying playing their music. I just fucking love this album, and I know you lot do as well.
I adore.
I alluded to it earlier with Obituary, saying there's another band on our list that just sound like they're just having fun.
Yep.
This was the band I was talking about. I've been a Metallica fan from day one. They're the hardest fucking band sometimes in the world to defend. I'll defend them to the fucking death. And I think this album is just fucking brilliant. Some people have said it's too long. The more I've listened to it, the shorter it gets. And it's just brilliant. I love them.
Yeah,
I'd fucking stand by everything you've just said then, Dave. I think it's amazing. And on the point of it being too long, I've never felt that. It flows. I put it on and it's just fun all the way through. It's just riff after riff after riff, and it's all played with enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's effortless. It sounds like a band who they know exactly what they're doing, and they're just getting on with it. There's no pretension, there's no contrived. It just sounds effortless and natural. And like I say, you've got riffs there, original riffs, and yeah, damn good album.
If you could all pick a favorite song from it, I reckon all four of us will have a different song. I don't know about Padre because I think he's asleep, but
I am really partial to, for obvious reasons, like an Iommi styled riff. So for me, You Must Burn, there's an outro riff. It kind of comes in like just before the solo and just after the solo. That is pure Tony Iommi. And that for me is the riff of this year.
Hello. Fucking hell. All right. Dave, favorite track?
I'm just looking at it now. Room of Mirrors. It's that twin harmony guitar at the end that's super Iron Maiden. It's just fucking, it sends shivers up my spine. It's beautiful.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think maybe
don't ruin it.
All right.
No pressure.
I think at a push, probably Screaming Suicide, just because the riff at Power's Reverse, that main riff.
Yeah.
After the intro.
Yeah.
What a riff. Yeah.
For me, it was Inamorata, the last song.
You like that?
It's one of my favorite Metallica songs, probably since the Black Album, to be honest with you. I know it's long, but again, like the album, it doesn't feel that long. And just all that sort of that spacey Sabbathness that goes all the way through it. I just love it. I just love it. Absolutely fucking love it. So look, there's a reason, like Andy said, it was the one album that we've all got on our list. Every single one of us, all 15 of us, or however many of us there are now. And that says it all. That's testament, really, that so many people have hated on this album this year, but all of us are unanimous in the fact that it's a fucking great record.
I did the launch for it here, and it got to probably 6 p.m. and I had a guy come in here who works at local HMV, and he came down here to buy his album here.
Good man.
I'll drink to that. Fucking hell, that's great.
He said to me that at midday, HMV get their nationwide sales figures through, and at midday it had outsold any other album physically that HMV have stocked in the last 7 years.
Fuck yes, I love that.
Ow.
Yeah, drink to that. If I had any beer left, I would.
Makes me happy.
It does, and it's and that says it all. That there's all this hatred and all this nonsense that goes around Metallica, and always will. But things like that means they still they just it's a minority, isn't it? Keyboard
Listen,
warriors, and it's a
They
minority.
say nobody hates Metallica more than Metallica
Metallic fans, yeah.
right?
But that's
You know,
but, yeah,
it's
but,
the
that, but
cliche.
that's not true. I think we've got to remember
No.
the shouty people always talking bollocks are a minority.
Yeah,
And it's because
completely.
of a minority that, and it's the same in politics. It's the same in any subject. The ones with the most negative opinions, they're a minority, so they have to make themselves louder to make us all feel they're the majority, and they're not. And I think most Metallica fans love this album or really like it at worst.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. But what matters is we love it, and it was close to being our album of the year. So happy days. I'm happy for them. I'm happy the fact that they've gone out there doing these enormous stadium shows. Fuck knows what kind of money it's been grossing around the world, but look, fill their boots. They haven't got long left.
I went in and I did the double in the cinema.
Oh yeah, you did, yeah.
Which was a weird thing to do, but what a fucking experience! You know, whatever they're doing on stage, you feel it through the cinema screen. You know, it transcends what they're doing live, and I had a great time.
Right, In the Abyss, album of the year. To be honest with you, I think if you've been listening to this throughout the year, you're going to know what this is. We reviewed this album prior to release back in the summer. We had the singer and bass player on for a chat as well. Fans of this album, this band's previous record, but this one, we were looking forward to it. We hyped it a fair bit. High expectations, and that's always dangerous when you've got high expectations for a record. It might fall flat, but this definitely didn't. And I know for the majority of us, not necessarily all of us, but certainly for the majority of us, this was just an absolute fucking masterpiece. And again, another British band, A Feast on Sorrow, one of my favorite metal albums in the past 10 years. Absolutely fucking blew me away. This did. Just a stunning piece of work.
Hands down, quality, absolutely amazing release. So for me, I think what sets it apart from the rest of the albums on this list is that thematically it really captured. I mean, I'm not going to go so far as to say it was a concept album, but there was a theme that was applied to the songwriting on this record, and it captured that perfectly.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of a fully realized concept, it just sailed away with the fucking, like, it nailed it. And when I listen to it, it's an incredibly human experience to hear what is contained in this album, and that for me just lifts it like above everything we've talked about tonight.
Yeah. I mean, what they've done with this album is taken so much recognizable and classic elements of metal, you know, riffs and structure and dynamic, but they've just done something new with it, something completely fresh, and I don't know how.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, really, and a three-piece.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, when you think of all the layers, everything that's going on in those songs.
I mean, was it for me that, you know, as I've listened to it more, it feels at times like a classical record. You know, I'm not going to, obviously musically, I'm not going to make a direct comparison, but if you take something like The Planets by Gustav Holst, which has, again, it's got this journey, you know, the epicness, this softness, this quietness as well, bits and pieces when it needs to. And obviously, yeah, this is not a quiet album throughout, but when it does that, you know, and it breathes and it slows down and it before it moves into the heavy stuff, it's got that same sort of vibe to it, I feel.
Yeah. I almost, you know, because we reviewed it and we spent about 45 minutes yapping on about it, how much we love it. I almost sort of lost for words of how much this is the one album, right? And this is going to sound really fucking naff, but I've put this on, put the vinyl on, and I've sat cross-legged in the middle of my dining room and listened to it, doing a bit of work on my laptop, but just sitting there listening to it. And it's that kind of album. It's just every time I listen to it, I hear something different. There's another riff in there. There's another sort of melody. It goes off in a different direction. But lyrically, it's brilliant. It's got the
what's significant about that is it works on two levels, because you can put it on and just fucking rock out. You can mosh to it.
Completely.
It's a heavy album. You can headbang. You can snap your neck.
Yeah.
But if you want to experience something, more substantial, a little bit deeper than that, you can sit and listen to it and just experience the layers of it. And that, for me, is why it's a number one album.
Yeah, completely. And I'm interested to hear Dave's opinion on this, because of all of us, you're the one person that didn't have this in your list. So what do you think of it?
I didn't have it on there. It was close though, and just listening to the three of you talk about it, it's very interesting, and especially to sort of contradict yourselves that the EP is the the thing of the future, because I think the thing that we can probably all agree on in that the Earn album needs to be listened to as a complete piece of work.
Yeah, 100%.
It needs to be listened to in its entirety. It's a cinematic piece of work, and absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, as you said in the intro to it, how fucking cool is it that the number one album is a British band?
Yeah, South London boys.
Woo.
That goes down well with those two. But the production's great. Sonically, it just sounds amazing. And being, like you said, when it drops down and it goes low key, everything just flows perfectly, and you don't necessarily know what's coming next. There's nothing predictable about it, but it is full of hooks.
Yeah,
there's just some proper classic old school metal riffs in there.
You can hear Mastodon, you can hear Metallica, you can hear, you can hear all sorts of vibes going on in there.
Justice era Metallica is what I hear a lot of it. The riff structure is it's all there. And I think they're another one that they're going to go from strength to strength. If they tour hard, they play their cards right. They're different, but equally they're accessible. So there's no reason why the world shouldn't. I can see the States falling for them, definitely.
I agree, and I listening to that, I just think there's this movement of homegrown British bands that just feel like they have moved up a level.
Yeah.
Earn are definitely in there, Green Lung are definitely in there, Celestial Sanctuary are definitely in there. These are bands that are kind of, you can see them on the world stage.
Yeah, completely. And that's, I made a little list actually of British bands this year. A lot of them we've already spoken about. Margarita Witch Cult are another one I think we need to mention, because hasn't quite made the list, but I know it's on a cut of our list. That was a great record. It's just been one of those years. Burner, Death Collector, going back to Wallowing again. It's just been such a fucking great year for British heavy metal.
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
Look, there you go. That's it. Album of the year. Like I said, if you've listened to us before, you're probably not surprised that's what it is. But it's just, I don't know. I'm still blown away by it even now. Every time I listen to it, it still flicks that switch, and I'm disappointed I'm not seeing them on Saturday. But I'll live with that. I'll catch them again. It's fine.
I'm blown away by the image of you sitting cross-legged on your living room floor.
Just in his pants, I bet.
In his pants. Well, that's the version that I had in my head. It was definitely pants and not much else.
You know what? Saturday night while you're there, Boston Music Rooms, I'll do that. I'll sit cross-legged in my pants, dining room floor, listening to the album, probably crying because I'm not fucking there. But there you go.
Incense going.
Yeah, a couple of bottles of Shiraz, that'll sort me out. I'll fall asleep.
That'd be fine.
Butt naked on the dining room floor.
A couple of bottles of Shiraz, and I'm already in my pants, mate. Like, what night of the week it is, play me Mariah Carey, and I'll still be in my pants.
Well, there you go. That's that for the year. And that's it for us for the year. We will be back in January, doing the same old thing probably, but we'll look forward to 2024. Just quickly, any sort of thoughts about next year? What you're hoping for? What you expect to happen? Big releases, and trying to think what might be out there. There's a Merciful Fate album out next year potentially. I believe.
Exciting. Yeah. The one thing that's piqued my interest is Zakk Wylde's ongoing Zack Sabbath project.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
That one has really got me excited for next year, because I've got the last release they did, the Vertigo release, was phenomenal.
All right, steady on.
Look, no, listen, I'm being serious. It was phenomenal. And they've just announced that they're going to do, what is it, Paranoid and Master Reality.
Yeah.
On
a double.
Holy fuck, that's gonna fucking kick ass.
Right,
there you go. New Judas Priest, hopefully, is going to.
Yeah.
New Anthrax will be later in the year.
New Testament as well, I think, towards the end of the year. So yeah, we'll cover that in more detail at the start of January, but we'll leave it there. Thanks to everyone who's listened to us over the last 12 months, all the new listeners, all those that have listened to us right from the start. A massive thank you to all the guests we've had, to Bean for being part of the furniture now, Dave for giving up your evenings, for joining us as ever,
Anytime.
Padre for staying awake when it's clearly very late there, and Voice of Reason for bringing some level of, reason to proceedings, I suppose. So we'll be back first or second weekend in January. We'll look forward to 2024, but until that point, thanks for listening, and as ever, stay metal. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.